I had prior knowledge of the Watergate break-in. I authorized subordinates to engage in illegal campaign tactics. I accept full responsibility for the break-in and bugging of the Democratic National Headquarters and other campaign abuses. Let me explain to you what I did about Watergate after the break-in occurred.
The date is June 17th, 1972.
5 burglars are caught breaking into the headquarters of the Democratic National Committee of the Watergate complex.
They're working on the orders of E. Howard Hunt, a one-time CIA agent who was on the payroll of the committee to re-elect the president.
The burglars broke into the complex to wiretap phones and steal secret documents to help Nixon's re-election campaign. 2 members of the team had address books with scribbles W House and WH, which led to the belief that the scandal had to do with White House connections.
Initial investigations of Watergate were heavily influenced by the media, particularly the work of 2 reporters from the Washington Post, who were
Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein. They played a huge role in the Watergate scandal.
But the person who played the biggest role in uncovering the Watergate scandal is William Mark Felt. William Mark Felt, born August 17, 1913, by carpenter Mark Felt and Rose Diger, attended the University of Idaho.
After college, Felt moved to Washington, D.C. to work for U.S. Senator James Pope, where he also went to the George Washington University Law School.
And that was just the beginning of how he took a stand during his FBI career.
Good evening. I want to talk to you tonight from my heart on a subject of deep concern to every American. In recent months, members of my administration and officials of the Committee for the Re-election of the President, including some of my closest friends and most trusted aides, have been charged with involvement in what has come to be known as the Watergate affair. These include charges of illegal activity during and preceding the 1972 presidential election and charges that responsible officials participated in efforts to cover up that illegal activity. The inevitable result of these charges has been to raise serious questions about the integrity of the White House itself. Tonight I wish to address those questions. Last June 17, while I was in Florida trying to get a few days' rest after my visit to Moscow, I first learned from news reports of the Watergate break-in. I was appalled at this senseless, illegal action. And I was shocked to learn that employees of the Re-election Committee were apparently among those guilty. I immediately ordered an investigation by appropriate government authorities.
As the second and third highest position during his career in the FBI, Felt was called to work the Watergate scandal.
He started his job as an FBI agent on January 26, 1942. Many say Felt conducted illegal tasks to investigate the case. For instance, while Watergate was seething, Felt authorized 9 illegal break-ins at the homes of friends and relatives of members of the Weather Underground, a violent left-wing splinter group, which later caused him to get arrested in 1980, but he was pardoned by President Ronald Reagan. He took a stand by risking his job and reputation to solve the Watergate scandal.
Felt was compelled to go to such extreme measures to break down on the Watergate scandal because Nixon, as the president, wouldn't release that he did illegal acts. Therefore, Felt had no other way to investigate the case with the president not cooperating, so he had to find other ways to gather evidence.
In order to stay disguised, Felt was established the nickname Deep Throat because he always had a deep insight and reference.
President Nixon tried to cover up the break-in incident by saying he was raising hush money for the burglars, trying to stop the FBI from investigating the crime.
In order to get the word out about what Nixon was doing, Felt told his partner, Bob Woodward, who worked for the Washington Post, all of the information. Felt trusted Woodward with everything. Bob Woodward and Mark Felt were really close. They first met when Woodward was dispatched to the White House as a carrier bearing a package. Woodward was sitting outside of the Situation Room at the White House when a man came up and sat next to him.
That man was William Mark Felt. They had a thoughtful conversation about their careers and information about each other. Woodward didn't want to leave empty-handed after that confrontation, so he asked for Felt's number. Woodward decided that night that Felt is going to be who he insulted in his future. Then Woodward and Felt started sharing information on Felt's cases once Woodward started working at a newspaper company.
After Woodward received the information, he got it out to the public by publishing a story in the newspaper. But the source of the information was from someone with the undercover name Deep Throat. The information would have been revealed if the disguise of Deep Throat wasn't created, because if the source of the information was Felt, he would have been arrested sooner and maybe wouldn't have gotten to finish the case.
Many speculations occurred from the public deciding who is Deep Throat. Although many people theorized about who Deep Throat was, many names came up, but the real identity of Deep Throat was never exposed.
In order to communicate, Felt and Woodward would host secret meetings and would move a flower pot outside to symbolize something was happening, or a light would be turned on to tell the other if something was needed.
Now the time is 1974.
The House of Representatives authorized the Judiciary Committee to consider impeachment proceedings against President Nixon.
Before Nixon could be formally impeached, he decided to resign himself.
At 9 p.m. on the evening of August 8, 1974, Nixon delivered a nationally televised resignation speech.
In all the decisions I have made in my public life, I have always tried to do what was best for the nation. Throughout the long and difficult period of Watergate, I have felt it was my duty to persevere, to make every possible effort to complete the term of office to which you elected me. In the past few days, however, it has become evident to me that I no longer have a strong enough political base in the Congress to justify continuing that effort. As long as there was such a base, I felt strongly that it was necessary to see the constitutional process through to its conclusion, that to do otherwise would be unfaithful to the spirit of that deliberately difficult process and a dangerously destabilizing precedent for the future. But with the disappearance of that base, I now believe that the constitutional purpose has been served, and there is no longer a need for the process to be prolonged. I would have preferred to carry through to the finish, whatever the personal agony it would have involved. And my family unanimously urged me to do so. But the interests of the nation must always come before any personal considerations. From the discussions I have had with congressional and other leaders, I have concluded that because of the Watergate matter, I shall resign the presidency effective at noon tomorrow. Vice President Ford will be sworn in as president at that hour in this office.
Felt's prosecutions of White House involvement of the Watergate scandal was right the entire time, and his evidence was what caused Nixon to resign.
All throughout Mark's FBI career, he always did what he thought was correct and 100% accurate.
Felt and Woodward made a good team. Felt supported Woodward and thought he was doing a good job at what he was doing.
Felt knew the way politics were moving, so he had no other choice than to reveal his identity as Deep Throat. Mark Felt was revealed during June 2005 in an article in Vanity Fair.
He kept his identity so secretive that even his family didn't know he was Deep Throat.
After a life of disappearing from the public, Mark Felt passed away on December 18, 2008, in his sleep from congestive heart failure.
William Mark Felt lived a legacy of keeping secrets, breaking rules, and taking stands against what he thought was right.
All in all, Mark Felt risked his reputation and career just so he could leak information to take a stand about exposing criminal activity led by President Richard Nixon.
Mark Felt was brave enough to risk his career to solve the case, so if it wasn't Mark Felt who got the case, there wouldn't be anyone who was as risk-taking as him, and the case would not be solved. Therefore, the president, Richard Nixon, would have continued his illegal task and nobody would have known.
Sure smells strange in Washington.